What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the RC Dirt Oval podcast for your special value edition 2-in-1 week. Tonight we are joined all the way from Indiana, I hope. Number 57, Dustin Malicoat. What is up, Dustin?
Not a whole lot. Just got done playing a little bit of soccer with my oldest daughter.
Yeah. So for anybody that didn't pick up the slight bit of chuckles in both of our voices, we just recorded the intro and realized that it wasn't actually recording Dustin. So we're doing all this again. So I hope Dustin nails his part this time because he's had practice to go through it. So if he fails, like, really make sure you dog him out for it. So, as we already said, that only you and I heard, you coach 2 soccer teams, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, I coach my oldest daughter, who is 13 years old. We're get tryouts this coming Monday for her team. It'll be a 14U travel team here. I've been coaching her since she was about 7 years old. Started off in rec and moved to Rec Plus, and now we're full on travel and one of the higher level teams in the state, actually. So we do quite a bit of travel with her team. And then my local high school, they had their girls varsity coach resigned last fall, and I was asked by a few people to put my name in for that, so I applied for that and got that position.
Wow.
So yeah, now I guess I'm the high school coach as well.
So, okay, so you high school coach, you travel coach. Your girls, I think, also are involved in softball and swimming.
Yeah, so my younger daughter, who's 10, her big thing's swim.
Okay.
She started it about a year and a half ago now. So she swims better part of the year. And then we really wanted her to be a part of like a full team sport, not just, swimming's team sport based, but it's pretty much a whole lot of individual there.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of really relying on teammates and teammates relying on you. So,
right.
I'm big in sports builds, great future people, so to speak.
Right.
So I pushed her, my wife and I both pushed her into doing softball, because soccer's not her thing, basketball, not her thing.
Right.
So softball, and before the first game, she was kind of like, I don't really know. After the first game, with all the chants and cheers and chaos going on in the dugout, she's like in love with it. So
awesome.
Sure, we're looking for fall ball now for her. So she's been double dipping and doing swim and softball at the same time. And,
oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty chaos.
Yeah, I can imagine. So between all of that, having a wife, and then you have your machining work that you do, and then the different RC companies. So I say all that to say, if anybody ever messages you and does not get an instant response, don't get bent. You're slightly busy.
Yeah, it's it happens. It happens daily almost. So no, it's actually not too bad. As long as people message me in the right place, I'm okay. So like if somebody emails me via one of the websites, or they message me through Team GFRP's Facebook page, either myself or Chad Jones, or I believe I have somebody else who doesn't really do much with it, so I won't even say him anymore. But yeah, so Chad and I basically kind of handle the Team GFRP page. Chad, for the most part, handles it. And then the 5-7 Designs, I do most of it just because Chad doesn't really have a lot of the answers for that one yet.
Gotcha.
But he will definitely be a big part of that one as well. And then my RC, the Dustin Malicoat RC page, you can message me there. And that's not as good as the other pages to actually get a response because I don't really look at that as a business page.
Right.
So I don't check it as often. And then now my personal one, people message me there, and yeah, good luck getting a response there. 'Cause I don't check it very often. I have enough Facebook message pages that I got to check. So.
Right. So
yeah, I do try to keep the business ones up to date as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, so if you want to get some information, message the GFRP page, because we got to make sure that Chad Jones is earning that paycheck for being brand ambassador.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he'll help you out, and he even knows 5.7 stuff. So he's your man. Tell him I said hi.
Yeah. Yeah. You should get him on here one time. I'm sure he would love to do something like this.
Yeah, I can tell. I can just tell that he loves like being out in the forefront and visible. And yeah, Chad Jones, you have brand ambassador Chad Jones. You have an open invitation to come on the podcast whenever you are ready.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Good luck, but I like it.
Well, hey, speaking of that, he had a good race recently, and I never saw it posted to any of the pages. Somebody's slacking. Whose job is that?
That's probably mine, because I guarantee he won't post anything about himself. What race was that?
That was the... Oh, man. It was the cash race.
Oh, the Mayhem thing?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's North Vernon.
Yes, North Vernon.
It's the North Vernon track.
Yep.
Yeah, I probably should have posted something about that. Actually, we did really well there. It's like 5.7 Designs as a whole. I want to say they had an 8-car main,
and
I believe I was told either 6 or 7 of the cars were either GFRP or 5.7 Designs cars.
Right.
So I think they may have been all 5.7, because I know there were several Prodigies, and I believe there was a GF6 in there. Yeah, I don't know. I probably should have posted something. I don't know. I was probably busy doing something with soccer that day, so I forgot about it. So
yeah.
Yep, no, he won that. I believe that was $1,000 to win race, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Too, so
I think you're correct. So good job, Chad Jones. All right. So let me see how I want to word this. We just had Jason Rona on. He has jumped into Dirt Oval a little bit. DE has, made specific tires for Dirt Oval. There are so many new tracks popping up. Rubber tire Dirt Oval racing has grown dramatically, in my opinion, over the past 2 to 3 years. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely would.
Okay.
It's grown, and it's weird how it's done it. Just with the different manufacturers coming in from tires and wheels and bodies and things of that nature. But from a manufacturing standpoint, from an actual car manufacturer standpoint, it's like we've lost some manufacturers over the last few years, versus gaining them, which is good and bad. That the car manufacturer side, it's a tougher deal than what I think a lot of people realize. So I think you end up with some short-term people that think they want to do it, and then they realize it's a lot more work, and they're really not making any money doing it. So
right.
It's not worth it. So yeah, but as a whole, absolutely, it's growing. I see a lot of foam tire guys that 5 years ago, if I would have told them, hey, let's go run a rubber tire race, they would have thought I was talking to an alien or something.
Yeah.
They would have been like, there's no way.
Right.
Rubber tires, those things are terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, myself, I was one of them that I was not a big fan of rubber tire stuff. there's still aspects of it that I don't care for.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole, yeah, it's a growing market for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even I think we'd even talked about it at one time. There's a track in Ohio, well-known foam tire track that's switching over to rubber tire.
D&J.
Yeah, yep, and we'll get into the foam tire aspect a little bit more later, but I guess my concern is that the growth stays healthy, right? So I know you saw kind of foam tire, the pinnacle of foam tire, and you saw its decline.
Mm-hmm.
If you could say to rubber tire tracks and racers as a whole, like what is probably the biggest thing that they need to avoid that brought down foam tire from its peak?
That's twofold. So the biggest thing I think we need to do is figure out how to move the tracks to a looser surface.
Okay.
Now, in saying that, I'm not talking about a chili bowl or a really big event or a middle of the day, like a KDOC, middle of the day, 100-degree heat type of deal. Like it's never going to happen there.
Right.
But like your weekly stuff and things of that nature, start the races a little later. Don't run 5 hours of practice in the sunlight. Keep the track to where it's a little looser, more loamy, because that will prevent having as much tire prep wars, tire wars in general, and it'll also slow the cars down. It'll keep them slow enough that we don't lose the mod aspect. Because as soon as we lose the mod aspect and people want slower motors in cars,
mm-hmm.
it's a slippery slope. And then now you're adding classes, and just that's the biggest thing. It's like I'd say from like the rubber tire standpoint, we don't have multiples of the same car. So like the only one we really do is sprint car. We have wingless or non-wing or whatever you want to call it, and then outlaw sprint.
Right.
Yeah, some of the bigger races we have the plus 40 classes and things of that nature, but I think that's where you really run into issues whenever you start having multiples of the same car and one's just slower than the other.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing in a whole lot of other issues. This kind of goes back to like the 10.5 Midwest mod class and like the Chili Bowl. I'm really happy that they're doing away with the 10.5 rule. Mainly because, I mean, like Matt Murphy, he went and he built a car that was extremely light, had all aluminum drivetrain, went all out, and he's been very successful in that class with it.
Right.
At the Chili Bowl this year, my Midwest mod, I was close. I was close the whole week, and just I couldn't get over that hump of where I really felt that I needed the car. So I don't remember what round it was, but in one of the rounds, I just pulled the car apart. I put full ceramic bearings in the whole thing, cleaned them all out. Put aluminum drivetrain parts in the car. Things that I said that I wouldn't do.
Right.
I went through it. I put aluminum screws and everything. I just tried to lighten the thing up as much as I possibly could. And then I ended up mounting a different body and everything else while I was there.
Right.
Just searching for that extra little bit. And, if that were a mod class, I definitely wouldn't have been putting aluminum parts in. I know for a fact I wouldn't have been running ceramic bearings.
Right.
I probably put $250 worth of option parts on my car while I was there.
Right.
And ultimately, how big of a difference did it really make? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think the body change that I did was probably the single biggest change that I made while I was down there.
Okay.
Aside from cutting the carbon up and completely halfway re-engineering the car while I was there.
Right. Right.
So I mean, it's you get into those aspects of creating more expense. Typically, the tracks that are more locked down burn tires up quicker. A lot of that. I think that's probably like the biggest thing that I would say from what I've seen, and that kind of goes like you see it now in off road. Well, even Jason was talking about off road's kind of stagnant. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's they're at that point too, to where it's some stuff is too fast, so people are searching for other things, and
Right.
they're just looking for other classes, and then next thing you know, you end up with local races having 15 classes with 5 people in them instead of having 4 classes with 20 in them.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of that's the biggest thing. That's what I've always liked about the one thing. We had a track that was close to us. It's no longer in business. But they we would start the rubber tire. What I think the biggest appeal for rubber tire racing for me that has been in the past, and I'm sure if I could find another track that's close to me to actually race them again, it might be similar. You could always show up later. Like there, we race Friday nights. We would show up at like 6 o'clock. Actually 5 o'clock. So we get there at 5, practice at 6 to 7,
Mm-hmm.
and then you run 2 heat races, 2 rounds of heats in the main, and we were done by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Nobody was allowed on the track before 6 o'clock. There was an hour of practice. They wouldn't have a ton of people there, 40, 60 entries, something like that.
Right.
And, they didn't have to rework the track because they started late enough that the track was still good the whole night.
Right.
But that was a place that, they went out and they had one of those, I don't even know what the heck it's called. You probably know. It's like on the front of a Bobcat, and it goes across there, and it has like just this bar that spins, and it has a bunch of pins that stick off of it.
Yeah, like a Harley rake.
Yeah, Harley rake. That's exactly. So they have that, and they would drive that thing around there, and they wouldn't bust it up too deep, but it was an inch too deep, or 2 deep, and that's it. They would go out, they would do that, and then they'd water it.
Yep.
They didn't run it back in with a golf cart or anything else.
Oh wow.
So but it wasn't so wet that it would stick to everything.
Mm-hmm.
It would just kind of blow off. So as the night went, the track would just get wider and wider and wider.
Okay.
So that was like some of the most fun I ever had racing RC cars was on a track like that.
Right.
So that was what was always awesome about rubber tire stuff, which has kind of went away, which I understand. Cars have changed, the tires have changed. A lot of things have changed in that amount of time, but I'm afraid that like rubber tire is almost to that point where they're going to start running into some issues. So I think we need to not allow that to happen if possible.
Yeah, it's so the Northeast has definitely in the resurgence of rubber tire has been a few years behind the Midwest, and I'm already seeing kind of people almost splitting. And so like my local track is extremely loose. It can be loamy. There's no tire wear. The problem is the track can get rough and your car can get dirty. Now, I mean, it's usually not like mud sticky, but because there is moisture in it, you do have to clean your car. And, it's a little rough and you can't put down a ton of power. And we've had guys I've seen opting to go to more clay-oriented tracks because of, they're smooth and they're fast and their cars stay clean. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But I also know you're getting into motor wars and you're getting into all of that ugliness that foam tire's been through. And I don't know what to tell them. I don't mind the track being rough. I don't mind. I mean, dude, we can throw slide jobs in the corner. I mean, just like all day long. And, it's fun. You come out there with a 6.5, you're going to look stupid because you can't put it down. And we can go a whole season on a set of hole shots. So I'm thrilled with it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that's where it's funny that, like you say, like we have people, and I'm like in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, that's either a carpet oval racer that's converted because they want to try it, or it's a foam tire guy that's just want to try it. Because I always I have a group of guys that I race foam tire stuff with, and they want the tracks as hooked up as possible. They want this, they want that. And I'm like, if you guys want that, go race carpet. We still RC has that. It's called carpet oval.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of the same thing with the rubber tire side of it. It's I know even some of my team guys, they're like, oh man, this track's awesome. It's hooked up. It's got all kinds of grip and this, that, and everything else. I'm like, go on foams.
Yeah.
That we already have that. It's called foam tire racing.
Right.
And that's where I've always kind of chuckled at it because it's I quit carpet oval racing because I couldn't stand holding the car wide open and steering for 4 minutes. I just didn't enjoy it at all. So whenever I started racing dirt oval, even because I was racing foams, it was still, you were catching the car, you were sliding, you were doing this, you were doing that. Now, 15 years later, the cars on foams are not doing that as much.
Right.
But it's still, even with 17.5 cars that we race, most tracks you still are lifting in 17.5 on foams. So it's not as bad as carpet oval racing, but it's close.
Yeah.
To where the rubber tire stuff, I've never had a rubber tire car that I've just been able to hold it wide open. Even on the really hooked up tracks, because most of the time, whenever they're that hooked up, now you're worried about traction rolling. So,
right.
You're not going in there wide open because of that reason. So, it's interesting how people, they come from one thing, they left it for a reason,
right.
But then they always try to make what they have now into what they left.
Yep.
We can get real political real quick and talk about other people and coming to America and the same thing. So yeah, it's just, I think it's human nature.
It is.
They were good at something, so they want it to be as similar to that as they can because they feel they have an advantage there. So
right.
I get it, I understand, but at the same time, it's take your ball and go home if that's what you want to do. Let the people that are playing at the park play at the park the way they want to play.
Right. Yeah, and that's I've tried to tell some guys from local, do you know how good you have it to get a whole season out of a set of hole shots? That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist on rubber tire.
Especially that tire.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not like you said, hey, I got a whole season out of a set of Banditos.
Right.
That I can understand.
Right.
A whole shot, a pin tire?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, super softs that are sauced up pretty heavy at that. So
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears. It seems, I'll just say this on closing. It seems kind of like right now, everything, with the exception of new tracks opening, seems like rubber tire world has kind of settled down. Seems like the manufacturers that are going to be around for a while they're still around. The ones that were in it for the wrong reasons have kind of faded away, and economy is taking care of itself, I guess, or capitalism anyway.
Yep.
So, with saying all of that, where do you see, what does rubber tire need to really like we're getting so many off-road guys coming in. What does it need to keep them around and anybody else coming in for 5 years?
Stability, which I think is pretty stable right now.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping that and us keeping like the classes and the rules that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not screw it up from a manufacturing standpoint. Like, it would be really dumb of me to release a 4-wheel drive something and try to push it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm sitting there like, because I'm always thinking of, okay, different things and everything. Like, the 4-wheel drive cars were always a blast to drive on rubber tires. So it's like, man, maybe we can get it to work this time. No, that's stupid. like all we're going to do is spend a bunch of money and not make any.
Right.
It's like the midget project that I did a few years ago that I never actually did anything with. I still have people that are like, hey, are you going to do anything with that? It's like, there's really no place for it to fit in. So I think that's like the big thing is let's not screw it up from a promotion standpoint and a manufacturing standpoint. Now, whenever I say promotion standpoint, I'm talking like track owners.
Yeah.
Don't let the racers screw it up for themselves, because racers will do it. I'm a racer. I will screw it up 100% of the time if you give me the opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, don't change what we have. The one thing that I would love us to do is freaking pick a spec tire. I don't care what it is at this point. Just pick something and stick with it, because I was going to go to a race, and I sent the guy a message that was track around there, and I'm like, hey, what's the tire rule?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, well, it's this, 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 and this. Okay, well, you just gave me 4 options. You just gave me 4 brands that each have at least 2, if not 3 compounds, and a few of them have options of that tire as far as like grooved and non-grooved. And I'm like, why didn't you just say open? Right. At that point, there's really not much difference.
Right.
And that's, and the thing is with it is, like, people don't look at it. Some people get it, some people don't. Some people will never get it because they race at one track. A lot of people that race at one track, they don't want a spec tire because they race there. They know what they're going to race there. They're always going to run that same tire. Whatever it is, that's what they're going to run. And they're happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that racer not wanting to be told what he has to race at his track.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's got to understand is, okay, if they want to have a larger race and you want to pull in a lot of different people, well, rubber tires are not cheap.
Nope.
I mean, it is insane to me how much money rubber tire guys spend on tires. That being said, like, I've had a lot of foam tire guys who are like, yeah, the rubber tires are crazy expensive. It's like, yeah, but that's really all they're buying. Yep. They're not buying motors all the time. They're not buying batteries all the time. They're not buying bodies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not buying replacing drivetrain parts because they're running all lightweight stuff. So it's like, it kind of offsets itself.
Mm-hmm.
They're not buying $500 chargers and $400 dischargers and all this other stuff that you have to do with the foam tire aspect.
Right.
So it's like, it's okay that they're spending money on tires, but you could help the racers out by finding something and sticking with it. I mean, that being said, we had rebars for several years. They've proven time and time again that they couldn't really keep up with the demand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of led to the situation that we're in, to where right now we have multiple guys saying, hey, I want to make tires for it.
Right.
Well, that's great. I just wish one of them would have done it a year prior to everybody else, and they would have owned the market.
Yeah.
But everybody decided they were going to swan dive in at the same time.
Right. And
so I would love to see like a spec tire. I don't even care if it's the same spec tire per, like, okay, this company can have the street stocks and the late models of Midwest mods. This company can have sprint cars. This company can have SC mods. Whatever it is.
Yep.
let's figure it out, guys, because it's that's one thing that I think that we have to do, and that's whenever I say we, that's the track owners, the promoters of different series and big races and things like that. I mean, as far as like manufacturing wise, I don't have much to say on it.
Right.
I'm a customer just like everybody else whenever it comes to that. So
yeah, and I mean, from what I've heard, some series and some tracks they've seen a little bit of a drop off this year because they're experimenting with spec stuff or they're running multiple specs and I mean, as much as I hate to say this, it was easier when it was just the rebar. But it's so funny that you brought that up because I was just telling somebody today, like what the street value of my current tire collection to be able to run open tire is. And it was astronomical. I mean, we both were like, that's stupid. That's just purely stupid.
Yep.
And because we're a couple years behind the Midwest, a lot of the guys in the Northeast haven't seen it become what it has become in places in the Midwest where, say you do have 4 spec tires that you can choose from and there's 2 compounds in each. Okay, so that's 8. And then you're going to have 2 to 3 levels of height that you've broke in or scuffed a certain way, right? So you're at 20 some tires without any spares.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that's not my idea of fun.
No, that's one thing that's nice about the Chili Bowl is we know what we got when we get there.
Yep.
I now know that, like, for me, I take 4 sets of tires per car that I'm going to run.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm not going to use up I have never used up 4 sets of tires on one car ever.
Right.
The whole time I've raced there. I think the most I've ever done was junk 3 sets. So it's like I know going to that, that's what I got to take. But then flip side of that, I've been to a race that I wasn't expecting to burn up tires, and so I did. I took 4 sets of tires, and we were killing a set in practice. It's like, okay. So now I'm mounting up tires and borrowing tires and buying tires at the track.
Right.
So yeah, that was with the spec tire at that race. So the flip side of that, if I'm on an open tire, well, now I'm doing that with who knows how many different brands of tires, trying to figure out which one works.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it is what it is. And I mean, like I said, for the most part, I feel like a lot of rubber tire guys kind of dismiss the cost of rubber tires because that's, for the most part, that's all they're really buying.
Yeah.
And I don't see, there's less guys that run rubber tires that race 3 and 4 classes at events.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison to, I see that a lot with the foam tire stuff.
Okay. So yeah, I think we're close. Let's keep class counts to a minimum. Let's not try to introduce anything dumb. I saw Arma released some 1/7 scale 4-wheel drive street truck or something, and I saw people already yesterday talking about putting it on dirt oval, and I'm like, no, come on, guys. Come on.
We already got rid of 8 scale once. Let's not do it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I think that's good advice. Let's keep it simple. Let's get spec tires figured out. If you're having a big race, or you want it to be a big race, go spec tire. And then the only thing I would add to that's for us here in the Northeast, make sure it's a tire that somewhat works.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like my local track, if we spec'd a bar tire, people wouldn't show up because you just,
Yeah.
I mean, a few people can get them to hook up, but the average racer's not going to. So it's just got to be something that works. But most track owners have enough common sense, I think, for that. So,
Yeah, and that's just it. Like I'm not even saying that you need to have a spec tire. Like we need to have a spec tire across the board.
yeah,
Like I'm okay with not having one across the board, but just whenever I'm going to a specific race or a race track, like find out what works at your track and make that the tire. That to me from a track owner standpoint and a hobby shop owner standpoint, that's the easiest. Okay. Hey everybody, we're running Banditos. Hey everybody, we're running DE. Hey, we're running Pro Lines. We're running this, we're running that.
right.
And that's all you have to stock. And yeah, you're gonna have the few people that are gonna be like, well, I'm not going there because I gotta buy these tires. And that's the only place I can run it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't go.
Right.
Whenever 50 other people go, and you're sitting at home, and now you're ticked off because you didn't go, and all your buddies are racing,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't go because you didn't want to buy the tires because you feel like it's a waste. Well, I don't know. Just pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah, even if you had to go run a track that was a different spec tire than you normally run, you're still cheaper than running full open tire.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're covering a lot of ground. This is good. So let's switch gears. Let's talk. We'll start with 5.7 Designs and the elusive unicorn prodigy. Well, no, let's back that up first.
Okay.
You've been teasing the website.
Yep.
How close are we to a website?
Pictures.
Yeah.
It's me being able to have enough time to take photos, edit the photos, get the photos uploaded into the website. So I think there's 200 and some products into the website, and I think I'm somewhere probably around a third, maybe a little bit further than a third of the way through getting the pictures uploaded.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the big holdup on it. The guy that's doing my website is a guy I coach with, and he just keeps harassing me. I'm like, dude, like you realize I can sell products on the website even as it is. He goes, dude, I am not releasing that website until you have all the photos picked up. He's like, because that's got my name on it, and I'm not letting you half-ass it. Like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and for those who don't know, you are trying to put out like I'm going to say like an A main caliber website and web store. So it's not just a little hack together, GoDaddy website.
No. If that's what it ends up looking like, then me and the guy I coach with are gonna have a lot of work because I spent a lot of money
Yeah.
to have the website done. No, the idea with the website is to basically have what we don't have with the GFRP side of it, which is a solid platform for people who don't necessarily know what the part's called, don't know what the part number is. They want to order it. They know that they have a Prodigy. They can click on that, and then from there, you're going to have tabs that you can click on each different type of, drivetrain part, suspension components, or just all of it.
Right.
And then, it's going to have pictures. Everything's going to be there. You can click on it. You can buy it all there. From my standpoint, it's going to be easy for dealers because they're going to have their own login.
Nice.
They're going to purchase all their dealer orders will be all done through the website. My team guys will all have that same option as well. They'll have all their discounts automatically put in. So no, it's definitely, I hope people are like, they have a little bit of a wow factor whenever they go to it the first time and are like, wow, that's really nice. It's actually the same, the GFRP, the actual true Team GFRP website. It's the guy that did that is doing this site. Except this is full on e-commerce site as well.
Yeah.
Instead of just an informational site.
Right. And I just want to reiterate, like, part of what really set A-Main apart in the beginning was, and for those who don't know this, when they get a part in from the distributor or manufacturer, they open it up and take their own photos. They set up a photo box and they take it opened, and then they take it packaged, so that you're getting a quality look at what the actual product is. And I know, Dustin, you've posted enough pictures on social media that, you know, you're taking really quality photos in a photo box. And I think that's going to be, I mean, it's just going to look polished. and that's definitely not something we've seen in Dirt Oval.
Yeah. No, it's fortunately for me, my wife does do photography part-time.
Right.
She hasn't done a whole lot of it here lately. But yeah, so I do have access to decent camera equipment, so which is kind of a blessing and a curse, because if we didn't have all that, I'd just pay somebody else to do it all, and it probably would already be done.
Right.
But yeah, it's getting that stuff done. I mean, yeah, I posted some pictures today of the Prodigy, of just because I needed some good, clean photos of the car. And it's like, well, you know what? Even without the website being done, here, people that are asking, what all comes in the car kit? Like, what am I buying?
Right.
Now you have a 100% representation of what you're going to buy in the car kit.
Right.
How the car is built in that picture is everything that you get with that car in its built state. The only thing that I think that's not on there is like the steering link that goes from the servo to the bell crank. Like,
gotcha.
It's not just hanging there.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like, that's how the car comes. So it's, I think that's the one thing that I wanted to do with like the Prodigy, and obviously there was a pretty big stink about that car for quite a while.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of water under the bridge now. Enough people have seen them and know what it is, that it's not just a unicorn anymore, so to speak.
Right. So speaking of that, when will you start filling your backlog of waiting list?
As soon. So I have to machine. Right now I have 2 jobs that are on one of my source machines that I got to get off of them. And then I can machine rear axles. That's going to be like the last part that we're waiting on. Right now, in between now and then, I have 3 or 4 other part numbers that I got to machine and get going. When we initially did the cars, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if we sell 100 cars, then we're good. Like, if I make 100 cars worth of parts, we're good. That you typically sell 60, 70 cars, and then you have enough spare parts. The items that I know are going to break, like front arms and some of those parts. Obviously, I made more of those whenever I initially made them, but yeah, we blew through those things way faster than I anticipated. So it was pretty much like, okay, we machined everything. Now we're out of everything. So now we got to remachine everything again. So there was a whole car's worth of everything to get machined. Well, I mean, it's not like RC stuff is the only thing I run at my machine shop.
Right.
So getting those all done back up, and this time, I hope I've made enough. I mean, I'm like right now, I'm currently making 500 pair of front arms.
Oh, wow.
So like, if we go through 500 pair of front arms in the amount of time that it took to go through the last few hundred sets, then yeah, we're doing pretty well with it all. And
yeah,
arms I can knock out quick, because it's a fresh piece of material in the machine, and finished part of it comes out of the machine.
Right.
So no secondary operations, nothing else. So I can react quick to things like that. It's the motor plates that, you machine them, then you have them anodized, and they come back and you remachine them.
Mm-hmm.
Or the like out drives and CVDs and things of that nature, where you machine them, then you have to send them. I send them to a company in Tennessee that does all my heat treating and my black oxiding. Well, manufacturing is busy right now, so what used to take a week now takes 3 weeks. Some of the anodizing stuff that used to take 2 weeks now takes 6 weeks.
Mm.
Getting hinge pin material, I used to be able to get it in 2 weeks. This last order took 8 weeks to get my ground material for hinge pins.
Wow.
So it's a lot of that type of stuff that's kind of set me behind a little bit. We just got the hinge pin material in last week.
Wow.
And I ordered it 8 weeks ago.
So
it's just stuff like that's kind of just pushed it out. And then now this time, whenever we do them, the last time I kind of trickled them out and everything else. Well, now I have so many people that are like dealers that have them on back order.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't have this dealer's going to get them and this dealer's not.
Right.
So I'm going to wait until I can at least fill all of the back orders for my dealers, which is not a short list.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am with it, is get all those, at least all the back orders filled with the dealers, and get all those shipped out. And then hopefully, maybe we can get the website done and release all of it at the same time.
There you go. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I just glanced at the questions, and there was a couple of things I was going to bring up, so we'll save those for the questions. Last thing I had for you, I know you have hashed this out with Tommy Burgess quite a few times on his Facebook Live thing, but for those who don't listen, foam tire. All right, like the basic thing that I'm getting right now is that there's too many classes of the same car with different motors, and just overall in general, foam tire racing is too fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's the solution? Rip the tracks out and make them rubber tire?
No. No.
Okay.
Even though I don't race foam tires a whole lot, because I don't race a whole lot of RC right now.
Right.
I still love foam tire racing. I love mod foam tire racing.
Okay.
Mod sprint foam tire racing is the hardest form of RC racing I've done. Now I say that like mod 2-wheel drive, mod buggy is probably the hardest thing that I've done.
Okay.
And I'm terrible at it, so I discredit it because I'm so terrible at it.
Right.
But yeah, so as a whole, yes, foam tire racing as a whole is too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that like, I know there's a group of people that like they just roll their eyes and like, oh yeah, whatever, he's on his kick about everything being too fast. Where I say they're too fast is the average person can't race the things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for lesser classes to race now. Well, even the lesser classes that they used to have available to race, they're too fast.
Oh yeah.
So it's not as simple as just pulling motor and battery out of the car, because then you're back to carpet oval racing, and you're holding it wide open in your steering.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I mean, we did the spec tires. I don't know how long ago we did spec tires. They help some,
okay,
but they don't solve the issue by any means, because even those hook up pretty well on a lot of the track surfaces that you race on.
Mm-hmm.
The too many classes thing is just, I mean, it's almost comical at some places. I don't even remember what race it was, but I know that you had sportsman sprint, you had 17.5 sprint, you had 10.5 sprint, and you had mod sprint.
Right.
And I think they even had a wingless sprint.
Right.
So you have 5 classes that are all with the same car.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between them is the motor, the battery, in some cases like the tires, and then like taking the wings off.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, how about we have a C or D main instead of having 5 classes?
Yep.
And that's like, and I don't know why. I think that the biggest reason we have so many classes is because just the speeds got to the point that some people couldn't hang with it anymore, so they asked and created slower classes. Well, that in turn ended up not necessarily, it didn't draw in guys right away because they couldn't hang in the top classes, but I think that it drew people in because, well, my class that I used to race, now that used to have 15 guys in it every week. Well, now it's got 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the class below me now has 18.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I racing 4 guys? I'll go down and I'll race against 15, 18 guys.
Yep.
So I think that, a lot of people are like, oh, they're just cherry picking. Well, yeah, there are cherry pickers. There's plenty of them out there.
Sure.
But for the most part, people aren't necessarily dropping classes to cherry pick. I think most of them are dropping classes because they feel competitive, more competitive in that. So, like, if you take your top level racer and then your middle level and then your lower level, you put them all together. Well, the middle level guys, realistically, in theory, you would think that they would have the most fun because they're beating some people and then they have something to shoot for.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. It's like they're the ones that they don't want to necessarily work hard enough to get to the top, or they're not skilled enough, and they admit it. So they want to have something below. So
Mm-hmm.
then they do that. Well, then you end up leaving the top guys
Yep.
just in a class of their own. Well, then they're looking around and going, well, this is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's, we have that at Go Fast. Every so often, it's like, hey, guys, let's run Mod Sprint this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, me calling Corns and Corns calling Stetler and me calling Jones. Well, next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 guys that can go to any race in the country on a national level and be in the A main.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they're all racing at one track together. Well, a lot of other guys are like, I'm definitely not running that class.
Right.
So it's, people want to feel competitive. I don't think they necessarily have to want to win, so to speak, but they do need to feel competitive.
Sure.
And I think that's where, like, the speed of the cars got to a certain point that there's a lot of people that they just did not feel competitive anymore at a certain level. So then they backed it down. Well, what we used to run in mod 17.5 now runs that speed.
Right.
They're not ripping down the straightaways like we did in mod, but they're going through the corners so good because the bodies are better, the cars are better, everything. Just the track surfaces are better.
Yeah.
So it's just, how to fix it? Dude, I don't have a clue. I literally, I don't. It's you would have to take such a big swing and a reset to make a big enough impact, I think, to actually truly accomplish something that you're going to kill it,
mm-hmm.
and then hope like heck you can revive it.
Right.
Or you're just going to have so much resistance that you never even have the opportunity to kill it.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what to do to fix it. I just know that we're in a weird spot with it. And yeah, it's kind of like I was talking with Paul Lemieux from Gravity and Motive, and obviously he's one of the best on-road racers in the country, if not the world, at one time.
Right.
And he said, like, foam tire sedan got to that point with like mod, and it got to the point that it was so fast that nobody could do it. So then some of the top guys started dropping back running stock. Well, then next thing you know, they switched to rubber tires, and it helped a lot. But now I think the rubber tire stuff, everybody's caught on to them and figured out how to get those to go around so good.
Yep.
That now they're even, I think, they came out with like a foam tire. They found a foam tire that works really well that frees the cars back up. So it's all goes in cycles.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's gonna go and how you're gonna. I don't know how you're gonna change it and it to fix itself. I will say the racing itself in rubber tires is far better than what it is in foams. Foam tire racing, whenever I say racing in it, mod classes, if I run 30 races, I might have a decent race, like a legitimate, I'm going to pass this guy, he's going to pass me back, and we're going to fight for position. I don't know, 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Now, some of the slower classes, that number goes up, but the problem is with like a 17.5 class, you're riding around. If the guys are good enough, they're not going to make a mistake, first of all.
Right.
Even if they make a slight mistake, if they're in the groove when they make the mistake and don't get completely out of the groove, you don't have enough power to go by them.
Right.
So, yeah, they made a mistake. I tried to get by them. I'm a smart enough racer that I don't dump us in the next corner. So that person still stays in front of me, and we just go around and we follow each other.
Right.
And some people think that that's absolutely amazing racing. To me, I don't think that's amazing racing. I think that's like, okay, do I punt you? Do I drive through you? Or do I just go ahead and settle for second place? I mean, I watched it, the Snowbirds A-Main with my brother. He was, I think it was a 17.5 class. I don't know. It was one of the biggest classes they had at the Snowbirds this year. And he started on pole. He was TQ. He started on pole. And he ran an absolute garbage race.
Okay.
I mean, he was terrible. He hit the ice. He was through the ice all over the track. And he had, I believe it was Rick Talbot behind him. And I even talked to my brother after the race. I was like, dude, what's up? And he's like, man, I don't know. I literally could not drive. I was just terrible at the race. But he held the lead for like 3 minutes and 50 seconds
of a
4-minute run.
Right.
By doing that. Because there was no speed to go by him. I think ultimately he ended up finally just making a big enough mistake, and so him and Talbot got together and they finished like 8th and 9th.
Wow. And
the guy that was in 3rd place, half track behind at one point, wins the race.
Right.
So it's that's not that good a racing in my opinion.
No.
It's cool somewhat to watch, but at the same time it's not really racing. So I think that's where like the rubber tire side of it is really good right now, to where foam tire, I feel like we were really good with it, say 5 years ago. But somewhere along the way, we figured enough stuff out on the cars. It just got them to the point that we're not there anymore.
Right.
So, but they're challenging. It's a totally different race. Like a rubber tire race versus a foam tire race, totally different feel.
Okay.
And the amount of work that goes into it is completely different.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good with rubber tire. All right, so let's jump into some questions here. Matt Carrington, is the Prodigy chassis designed to be 2.5 millimeters or 3 thick, and what are the advantages of such a flexible chassis?
Well, you can have advantages and disadvantages with it.
Okay.
So the car is designed, and production version of it is 2.5 millimeter. We have 3 millimeter chassis getting ready to be released for it. So I have some guys that are wanting it because they don't want as flexible of a car.
Okay.
The thought process behind it is typically whenever you have what I'll consider a flexi flyer, they're easier to get set up. The window for being comfortable is bigger. So being the first car we release in that genre, I felt like that car needed to have a pretty wide setup window. If it didn't have it, then we're going to struggle with it. I've learned that over the years with like the GFRP line of stuff is, some guys like a rigid chassis and one called the suspension to do all the work.
Okay.
A lot of times, like your higher level guys that really truly understand tuning and can drive good enough. So like your higher level guys, can typically get away with like, you could just put a 2x4 for a chassis and let them work on this roll centers and the suspension and everything else and not get anything out of the chassis itself.
Okay.
And they're going to be able to tune just fine. But then the people that don't necessarily understand a lot of the other stuff, you give them a more flexible car and it's going to be easier to set up. And, you might not be able to get it quite as fast as a stiffer chassis, but you're going to be in that 80 to 90% range of how good the car could be versus with a stiffer car, you might be able to get that 95% good, but your normal mean is going to be somewhere in that 65 to 75 range.
Yeah.
If you don't understand how to set the thing up.
No. Makes sense.
So that's kind of where it is. Where it does, and it's kind of weird because it works a little bit backwards than what a lot of people think. Is a little bit more flexible car. It's going to slow the weight transfer down front to back some.
Okay.
So it's just going to make a more numb, lazier car, so to speak.
Okay.
So we do have a 3 mil version. Should be out, I don't know, in the next couple of weeks. So just for people to buy the chassis. The cars will pretty much always come 2.5 millimeter, and then that's going to be an option for people to buy on the side. I'm not going to try to open Pandora's box and have different options for the cars.
Gotcha. Okay. Scooter Allison, serious question. At big races, Chili Bowl, etc., what is the pre-race checklist?
Oh, my pre-race checklist. Make sure I have a good flight.
Okay.
Wherever I'm staying is good. It's probably not one of the answers he's wanting, but this is my checklist.
Yeah.
Beg Team Jones to build my cars if I don't have any of them built. Try to guilt somebody else into mounting my tires if it's a rubber tire race.
Okay.
And that's like that's it as far as like a pre-race checklist. A lot of people literally would never believe me whenever I told them this, but like the sprint car that ran at the Chili Bowl this year, I didn't build my shocks from the previous Chili Bowl.
Right.
I only ran the car one time in between. And I pretty much built a whole new car, but I never actually took the shocks apart. I didn't take the shocks apart until the Mississippi Battleground race.
Okay.
And that's whenever I realized I didn't even have the proper bladders in my car.
Oh, wow.
I had the HPI bladders from whenever I was building the shocks. I thought I took them apart and changed them, but I didn't. So,
right.
So like, I took the springs off the shocks, compressed them, filled them. Like, they feel good. I'm not messing with them. So, as far as like car prep and things of that nature, I don't do anything different for Chili Bowl that I would do if I was going to go race at a club show this weekend.
Okay.
That's if I'm not testing something. If I'm testing something, which, the cars that I ran at the Chili Bowl were kind of test pieces, but most of the parts were the same.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm building new cars right before it, and then that's just a matter of, making sure that all the stuff's done. The radio stuff is taken care of. You might see me at a big race, like actually this year, like I set my car down. And before I was allowed to, like, I wasn't supposed to be on the track, so I was driving in, I don't even remember, I think I was like on pit lane or something like that. I was like setting my trim.
Right.
Doing something like that. So I try to get as much of that stuff taken care of before I get to the track, because I don't really care to work on my car whenever I'm at the track as far as like building it. I used to build new cars whenever I got to the races.
Right.
And that was always a headache, so I kind of quit doing that. And then, just making sure the stuff's there, but I try to treat, if it's a chili bowl or a club show, I don't really go into it much different. A lot of times my bodies aren't even brand new for the races or anything else.
Right.
Okay. That's kind of my checklist. My checklist typically involves the other stuff more so than the actual cars themselves, because most of the time they're already sitting on the shelf, pretty much ready to go.
Okay. Let's see. John Bolton. I think we've pretty much answered that. It would seem that Dirt Oval is ready to break into mainstream. How do you see it going next year? Yeah, I think we've go back and listen like 20 minutes ago, John. We hit all that. Hayden Richards, radio settings. When on a track, what are your go-to changes in the radio? Also, at the end of the race, does he put it back to neutral, as I say, and adjust the car accordingly, or leave it?
Well, so I have never found adjusting dual rate. Most of my cars, so the rubber tire cars, most of them are close to 100% dual rate all the time.
Okay.
I just have all of it and I use what I need. Foam tire stuff, sometimes I pull that out of the cars. And if I'm in a situation of that, the toggle button on top of the steering wheel, I use that for my trim.
Okay.
And so I'll play with that some. Even with running 100% dual rate, I have a feel of how far I turn the wheel most of the time anyway.
Okay.
And if I feel like I need more steering, but I'm not consistent enough actually turning the wheel to that point, I'll just reach up and start putting trim in the car.
Okay.
Because it's easier for me to drive. If I need to turn more, it's easier for me to drive with the wheel turned down the straightaway to make it go down the straightaway than it is for me to try to turn to a different point.
Yeah.
With the radio.
So you'll you'll counter steer down the straights, and then so that you're not having to turn the wheel as far. Okay. All right.
Yep. So I do that, and then that adjustment there, I'll typically pull that back out of the car, out of the radio after the run, and then I used to, whenever I was better, I'd have another button that I could adjust endpoint on the throttle for mod.
Okay.
So I could take motor out of the car
on
the fly. Honestly, I haven't really needed it. It's actually on the back side of the steering wheel, so it's closer to me. And if it's really bad, I can do that. But most of the time, I try not to do that, just because I try to run a few laps and warm ups, and I'll err on the side of not having enough motor than having too much. So I typically don't have to worry about that too much.
Okay. All right. John Bath, any changes to the Assailant or the Assault 3.0 coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big changes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how soon we're going to be able to release the car. I have some parts I have to machine for that. But it's big enough changes that a conversion probably not even going to be an option for it.
Okay.
Just because you're going to be so deep into buying stuff for it that are different from what we currently have now. But yeah, it's a lot of changes going on there. So,
okay.
And I think I'm probably pretty safe to say that at this point, because this point of the year, people aren't really buying new cars a whole lot. I mean, there are some people that are buying new, but we're kind of into the outdoor season far enough and away from the indoor season far enough that I don't think people are really buying a whole lot right now. So I don't think Barry's going to kill me too much for telling people that we have what we'll probably end up just calling them the I don't know if they'll be 2020 cars or 2019 cars. I guess it just depends on how deep into the year it gets before we can actually release them. But I know we've pretty well tested everything that we want to test with them. Got the cars pretty well lined up. You've been running what we've dubbed the 2020 Assault. You've been running that car. Obviously, I've heard you on the podcast a few times telling people how awesome that car's been.
Yeah, so, I've been hinting around about it anyway. Let's so let me just so you just went ahead and called me out on it. So let me just say real quick. I don't know anything about car engineering or anything like that. All I can say is my Assault 3.0 had a 4-gear stand-up. It had a rear brass bulkhead, and it had brass battery locators. All of that to kind of help generate forward drive. The new car has 0 brass and a lay-down transmission and has more forward drive on the same track than my 3.0 had. I have no clue, but dang, son, that thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's some little things in there that make big differences, and I'm actually not really going to say anything at all on it because it's just I'm not going to give my competitors the.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them the answer on it.
I wouldn't. I don't want you to.
Yeah. So it's nothing special by any means, but it's getting some stuff on it right, and yeah, we definitely figured some stuff out. I worked pretty hard on trying to get a sprint car. I wanted to win the Chili Bowl. Man, I wanted to win that thing. I've been close. I ran, what was it, 3rd or 4th last year, and then this year I ran 2nd. And I really wanted to have a sprint car that I felt like I was competitive. Like I could legitimately go down there and feel like I had a shot at winning.
Right.
I thought I did the year before, and then I was like, man, this car it lacks forward drive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can get it to have forward drive, but it's at the mercy of something else.
Right.
So I knew that I had to create more grip in the car. So I just kind of went on the search for ways to create grip and found it there. And luckily I found it probably, I want to say it was probably about November, maybe even December of last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of whenever I figured out where I needed things and what I needed on it. And yeah, once I did that, it was completely different car. That car drives completely different than the Assault 3.0.
Oh yeah.
And then I kind of took those principles and I applied those to my late model after the Chili Bowl.
Okay.
So after I was really happy with that car at the Chili Bowl, I went ahead and put all that stuff together and put it on a late model and ran it. That's the car that I ran down at the Battleground race.
Okay.
So yeah, it's we definitely found some stuff there that's I'm pretty excited. I know there's a few guys out there that have them, like Doug Gott has some now.
Yeah.
Chad Jones has some of them. I'm trying to think of who else has them. Justin Draymire, he's got one. So just kind of like my close, tight team guys.
Mm-hmm.
You lucked into one.
Yeah.
I promised you I'd hook you up.
Well, and I begged Jones.
Sell a car.
Yeah, I kept begging Jones.
Jones and I were talking back and forth, and I kind of dropped the ball on getting you parts. So I was like, well, hey, Chad, you need to send them your car because I don't want to send them mine because I want to keep mine.
Right.
So yeah, you ended up with Chad's car.
Yep.
He ended up with a new car. So he's happy and you're happy.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'll just say this. I think when that car hits the market and some guys get their hands on it, because I've heard stories of guys trying them and guys that were like middle of the pack guys normally going out and winning, with those cars. So I think some people are going to be highly impressed with those.
Yeah, and they're going to like the fact that they can take their customer's cage and put on it. So that's kind of a bonus. I think you're running a customer's cage.
I am.
Right?
Yeah, I'm. Yep. Yeah. So when Chad sent me the car, he kept his cage and everything, and I had a CW cage sitting here ready to go, and it bolted right on, and yeah, I love it.
Yep, and I haven't actually tried one with that cage yet, so I'm kind of curious. I've always ran mine with our machined cage, so
right.
I'm gonna give that a go. That's something that we've had some people ask me about it in the past. Of, hey, it'd be really nice if we could buy this, $30 cage instead of your $90 cage. Like, well, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went ahead and incorporated that into that car whenever I did it as well. So you can kind of run either or. I know that was a non-selling factor for some people before.
Right.
With they had a conversion car, so they had a customer's cage, or they had a customer's car, and they were
Yep.
they didn't want to buy they didn't want the expense, because it's expensive. By the time you buy like a GFRP cage, all the body work and the wings,
oh
and
yeah,
wrapped, and you got $200 at least.
Oh yeah,
in that.
Yeah.
So it's like it was a big expense for people to try to switch to run our car just to try it, and so I try to incorporate the other cage, and like I said, I never tested it with it. I just knew that some of the guys that had the cars that I was going to give the cars to had customer's cages, and they can throw them on and go at it.
Yeah.
I now have a customer's cage that I can put on one and try, but I don't have my car anymore. So I got to build another car for myself.
There you go. All right. Last question. Speed controller and radio settings for short course mod would be awesome to hear. The detailed settings.
Detailed settings.
Yeah.
We'll start off with the hobby wing.
Yep.
XR10 Pro speed controller. Hobby wing 4300 motor.
Okay.
And that's the 4-pole.
Yep.
And settings. I'm trying to think of the settings in my mind here. I don't mess with them a whole lot. There's really not a whole lot of need. I'm a little bit of drag brake if you need it. Whenever I say a little, I mean you're like 1 to 8 on drag brake.
Okay.
Anything more than that, fix your car. Boost, 4-pole, don't boost. There's no need.
Okay.
And you're gonna just burn the thing up. Like you'll burn the speed controller up is what you'll burn up.
Okay.
So you'll burn the phases out of them. So just like with boost with a 4-pole, I mean, more than 5%, and you're just there's no point, because so all the boost timing and all of that stuff is all figured off of 2-pole motors. So then whenever you do it with a 4-pole, the algorithms and everything else that they're created off of, it's not like a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not working properly.
Okay.
So I advise just don't run it. Like I have never been on a track that I felt like I needed more than a 4300 motor. And that's, if you do put like a 4700, I don't even think they make the 4700 anymore. So like a 5100 in it.
Yeah.
And have more motor. But like the neutral range, I know that's something, and it's literally just how much of a dead spot you have at the very beginning of the trigger. So that's not even that important. So then you have your softening values, that's just kind of softening the bottom end of it. You can change that number, and then you can change the percentage of the throttle range that you're working in. And again, that's something each individual is going to have to play with it. I couldn't tell you my actual numbers because I haven't ran since whenever the battlegrounds race was. That was the last time I raced an RC car. So
Okay.
The settings are not fresh in my mind.
Right.
But even then, like the softening value, I don't use it a ton. I do use it from time to time.
Okay.
But most of the time it's, hey, I feel like I'm upsetting the car whenever I get onto the throttle, so I'll change that and just kind of increase the softening value a little bit.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, really, there's not. I think a lot of people think there's a black art with it, and I think the biggest thing is with it is having a good quality speed controller that's smooth, and not like an on-off switch. And the motor's the same situation with that.
Right.
Having a good motor. Some people are successful with two-pole stuff, but I don't know. It's just a heavy car for me for a two-pole. Yeah, you can get it. Small tracks, I can see running a two-pole.
Yeah.
Because you don't have all that torque, but keep it simple and don't overthink it. Like I hear people all the time asking about gearing in short course. I think I put a 20. Like I run a 80, like an 81 or an 84 20.
Okay.
Well, so whatever gear I run at the Chili Bowl, it's pretty much I'd run that if I like at the barn over at Ohio, which is like a 90-foot run line track. I'd run the same gearing there.
Yeah, it's just so everybody listening knows, that's on a 272 ratio transmission.
Oh yeah, Traxxas, yes.
Yeah, no, I just don't want them going, I'm going to put that on my GF6 on a 2.6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd probably be fine.
Yeah,
it's close enough.
Okay,
it's mod. Gear's not that important. As long as the thing's not smoking hot whenever you're done, you're fine.
Yeah, I've done that, so that's why I'm giving people the warning. Yeah. So the biggest thing is don't put too big of a motor in a short course mod.
Oh yeah. Don't put too big of a motor in any mod.
No, true.
It's crazy the people that run big motors in their cars.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the guy that won the Chili Bowl this year in Outlaw Sprint had a 7.5 in his car.
Right.
So the guy that won it the year before had a 7.5 in his car. So I mean, everybody's like, there's no way 7.5. Are you kidding me? No, it's Dean had a 7.5 in his car this year. Doug had a 7.5 in his car the year before. So, well,
I know of, I won't give too many details, but I know of a certain short course that runs a very small 4-pole in his, and it's probably won more big races than anybody else that we could care to mention. So,
yeah. No, I run before the Hobby Wing came out with the 4300, I always ran the 4000 motor.
Right.
I think it was a 4000. Maybe it was a 4100. I don't know. It was whatever that motor was. I think it was 4000.
Right.
I know that I think Jones actually still runs that thing all the time.
Right.
The older motor, just because he feels like it's plenty of motor. So yeah, and that guy's won a few $1,000s. So,
yeah.
No, it's overpowering a car is just a bad situation, and it's easy to do.
Oh yeah. Yep, I've learned that lesson too. All right. Well, I think let me just double check, make sure nobody added last minute questions.
Now, I read earlier, and there was something about color.
Oh man, yeah, Scooter. Okay, we'll just. Would Alfie be faster if he changed his colors from orange and silver to something more bland? Asking for a friend.
No, I'm going to answer that because I'm going to say no.
Right.
Because you wouldn't be able to see the car.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right. It sucks, dude. It absolutely sucks. I cannot. The last time I raced, there was a gray car and a white car and I can't remember the other color of the other car. I couldn't tell the three apart on the track because like their numbers didn't pop or anything like that. And it's that there's a legitimate reason I run fluorescent colors. It's so not to just geek out too much. I'm color deficient, and so I only see like 3 shades of a color. So I gotta have really contrasting bright colors for it to stand out. And then the problem I ran into the year before, I think it was, where my cars were more gray than orange. They actually blended in to the dirt for me, and I had a hard time contrasting it from the track. So it's a legitimate reason.
Well, no, I get it. So, like, I grew up racing micros, and my brother, he's colorblind.
Okay.
And so we were at a race one year, and I had an amber lens, so an amber tinted lens, and for my helmet that I would always run at night because it just cut out a lot of the glare, and if there was any dust, it would cut through the dust a lot better.
Right.
So I would always run that. Well, he forgot to bring his tear-offs one day, and we had we had Simpson helmets, but they were 2 different types.
Okay.
So he was fine until he ran out of tear-offs, and then he was like, dude, I don't have any tear-offs. Like, can I borrow I had 2 helmets, so he borrowed my other helmet. And that's typically what I would do. Instead of switching the shields out, I would just change helmets as the night went on.
Okay.
So I had a dark helmet or dark shield, and then I put my amber shield on at night. So he ran my amber shield for the main.
Okay.
And I never even thought about it. So he's leading the race. The guy throws the white flag, and he slows down.
Oh no!
He comes off of 4, sees the white flag, thinks it's yellow, and he slows down. 2 guys go flying by him.
Oh my
gosh! So then he's like, "Oh crap!" So then he gets going again. So instead of winning the race, he finishes 3rd. He comes off the track, and I'm like, "What in the heck did you do?" He's like, "Man, I came off, and he was waving the yellow flag." I'm like, "No, that was a white flag." He goes, "Yeah, I realize that now." He's like, "I didn't realize that the shield was yellow." Like he never even thought about it.
Right.
I mean, obviously he saw it.
Yeah.
Like whenever he put it on, but and he knew I had an amber lens, but he had just never had that contrast, I guess.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, he did, and it cost him a win.
Oh my gosh!
And I just like, man, because I mean, it was plain as day. He comes off of 4, sees the white flag, and he just rolls out of the
That's terrible.
Yeah. So I kind of gave him crap about that.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, and then another one, like he brought home a green Honda Accord, so he bought this green Honda Accord.
Yeah.
And he gets home, and he's like, "Yeah, man, come check out my car." I walk out, and I'm like, "Dude, why did you buy a green car?" He's like, "It's green?"
Right.
I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, no, it's not green." I'm like, "It's 100% like a dark metallic green."
Oh man.
He's like, "Oh," he starts cursing, and he's unhappy. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, I thought it was black."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no, it's not black, buddy.
Oh.
You got a dark green Honda Accord.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I mean, not much you can do about it at that point. Hey, I take it back. I want to take this back.
Right.
I just bought a green car, and I thought it was black. No, he thought he had a black car. So, like, fortunately for me, I see color just fine. So I've never had any of these issues, and I think that's where, so I can sympathize a little bit because I grew up with my brother who literally he struggled with a lot of colors. There was a lot of colors that looked the same to him, and yeah. So it's I can't imagine it because obviously I don't have that issue. So
right.
It would definitely be something. And I mean, I know I sent you a car at one point. And after the races, you were like, "Yeah, I didn't run your body because
I couldn't see it.
I had to run this other one because I couldn't see it."
Yep.
I'm like, "What?"
Yep.
So yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. So like my worst story is maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. My wife comes home from work one day, and we're going about life as normal. And maybe like 2 hours goes by, and she finally goes, "Seriously, you're not going to say anything?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "My hair." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "I got my hair dyed today." And I'm like, "Yeah, I cannot see it at all." Like, so my wife's a natural blonde, and she got it like dyed red. I mean, not like burgundy red, but
Yeah.
and I literally could not see it. And she was so upset. She was like, "I cannot believe I went through this and you can't even see it." Yep.
Yeah, that's whenever you just turn it back and say, "Well, how much did I pay for this that I don't even get to enjoy?"
Yeah, right.
So probably should wait a little bit to go through
Yeah.
that.
I think at the time she was probably making more money at me. She was working for a big pharmaceutical company. So,
Oh well,
yeah.
I just can't say anything.
And for Scooter, I would just like to add that I don't know, but the last time I raced, I beat our resident Northeast fast guy. So I'm not sure I need to go any faster. Just saying. Yeah.
Okay, so I know of Scooter. I don't necessarily know that I've ever met Scooter.
Yeah.
Does Scooter not go to the Chili Bowl this year?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Why not?
Cause just the expense of how the travel and.
Oh well, yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah. No, I know he's like really. I mean, he's about like me. If he doesn't make it, he's just killing himself the whole week.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same deal. It's about the same distance for him because he'd be coming from like Atlanta area.
Yeah.
So it's a hike, and then the hotels and food and all that. And
okay, so now that we're talking about him, and it triggered my mind of your sponsorship episode that you had.
Okay.
So the one thing that I want to reiterate that you said is some of the most successful RC racers in dirt oval, especially, have very few sponsors.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people don't understand that. Now, the sponsors that they do have, they're very well taken care of.
Sure.
But yeah, I know I have guys that I take care of quite well, and they've turned down, tire prep sponsors, motor sponsors, battery sponsors, speed control sponsors, radio sponsors, because they don't want to lock themselves in to anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and there's a lot to be said for that. So yeah, that was something that stuck out in my mind because I have people all the time that are obviously asking for deals from me. But then I also have guys that legitimately ask questions. I had a guy last week that sent me a message through Facebook and was like, "Hey, I'm looking at getting a new radio. I have an older radio that the company's no longer in business. I love the radio, but I can't do anything with it anymore because they're no longer in business."
Right.
So he's asking me about the KO radio. It's like I told him, I had sponsorship offers from other manufacturers of radios and radio equipment that I turned down to pay full price for the KO stuff. Because I knew the product, I believed in the product. So obviously, whenever KO asked me if I wanted the sponsorship, heck yeah, I'll take it.
Right.
Because now at this point, I'm not going to change anything that I was doing for them. I already told everybody, run their stuff. I love it.
Right.
So it's like there's a lot to be said for that, believing in your product before you ask somebody. And what I would say to most people is, if you're asking somebody for a deal, then you're probably going about it wrong.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'd say 95% of the people that I sponsor, I've asked them. It hasn't been the other way around.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I literally this week had somebody message me and was like, "Hey, I want to send you X product. Like no sponsorship, no anything. I just want you to send it. You try it. Let me know what you legitimately think." Well, the conflict is I have a sponsor for said product. And I'm just being 100% honest here. So now I'm like in this, I'm in a quandary of, I think the product that the person would send me would work really well for me. But if I at all used it, I have to do it completely on, the down low, and I'm not too crazy about all of that myself. And so now I'm like, yeah. So how good is that deal again? I mean, granted, look, for the average racer, I'm an anomaly. Like, not everybody gets called up and, hey, let me send you something. But there are in this thing that we're in of like, I need to be sponsored. There's also not the people talking about the pitfalls that come with it, And And so, that was the one thing, like the more I started to like talk to like the top 10% of dirt oval drivers, I started going, wow, you have like a chassis sponsor and that's it. Like, and, oh, wait a minute. What? You left other sponsorships? Like you just dropped them because you want to be open to run whatever you want to run? And you could probably get the highest level deals of anybody, and you walked away from it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know for a fact I have 3 tier guys that one dropped speed controller sponsor, that it was a significant discount.
Mm-hmm.
I know another one dropped motor battery sponsor, that he was getting stuff for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know another one who turned down speed controller, motor, battery, all those.
Yeah.
Tire sponsorships. None of them have tire sponsorships.
Right.
So and I mean those guys are top guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legitimate top guys. So it's the sponsorship stuff is it's great whenever you have a product that you 100% believe in and have a good working relationship with the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I have more sponsors from basically having the company that I have more so than my abilities as an RC racer, I feel. Some of my sponsorships have came to that, or they're my own companies that I'm sponsoring myself, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, like, I have a motor battery sponsorship. And if I ran stock all the time, I wouldn't have a motor sponsorship.
Sure.
And Paul knows that.
Right.
I told him, like, if I ever got to a point that I had to run stock all the time, I could not afford to lock myself into having just his motors, because, hey, his motors might not be the best next week.
Right.
And be the racer, I'm not going to give that up.
Right.
Saying, and he knows that going in. We had talked about it and everything else. So fortunately, I don't run enough stock for it to be an issue. So,
right.
I mean, that's just one instance of it. And then I'm sponsored by Hobbywing. Well, I've ran Hobbywing stuff for almost 10 years now, probably something like that.
Right.
I don't know if it's quite that long. Well, I know for a fact it's at least 6 years, because for my 10th wedding anniversary, my wife and I went to California, and I know at that point I was already running Hobbywing stuff.
Okay.
So, because I went out there and I raced with Murphy and Webster and all those guys at one of their Best of the West races.
Okay.
I know for a fact I've been running that for at least 6 years.
Yeah.
Before, I was at least 5 5+ years into running their stuff before I was ever offered anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a matter of make sure what you're asking for is what you really want.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff, if you really sit down and look at it, and you look at the whole grand scheme of things, you might save $100 a year off of one sponsorship. So is it really worth locking yourself in on some of that? And that goes for even car manufacturer sponsors.
Right.
And it's fortunately for me, I don't have a whole lot of guys that are sponsored guys for me that leave. But a lot of that is because I'm asking the people to be a team driver for me, not the other way around.
Right.
So, because I will say for 100% fact that the ratio of guys that have asked me for a deal and then got some help and then left versus the guys that I've helped initially, big ratio difference there.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
If they're asking, they're a lot more likely to walk away. So,
yeah.
And we know that. All of us know that.
Yep. So if you...
Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to touch on the sponsorship stuff just because it is something that I deal with on a daily basis.
Right. And, I think I said it in that show, and I'll reiterate it. Like, if you legitimately want to be sponsored, put into work, make yourself known, and wait for them to come to you. Let you be in the driver's seat and not the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, again, I can't stress this enough. Go with somebody that you can have a relationship with. Well, it's like you said with with Paulie. I'm sure if you were to run something and you knew without a doubt that whatever motor was the hot motor of that week, you could call Paulie and say, "Hey, look, man, nothing personal, but I got to run this for this race."
He bought my Trinity monster motors for me.
Yeah.
He called Trinity and ordered them for me.
Well, there you go.
But that's because it was, I don't even remember when it was, but like his newest motor hadn't been released early enough to make the cutoff to be legal. So I had to have a motor. He knew his previous version wasn't good enough. And I talked to him about it, and he's like, dude, I'll call out there and I'll get you some motors.
Right.
So, here's a guy that is calling his competitors and buying a motor for his team guy to race at a race. That's the type of relationship you need to have with it, because I would say, especially from like a chassis manufacturing standpoint, people getting sponsorships there. If you're not getting help, like the whole financial help is completely, it's not even secondary. It's like way down the list, in my opinion, to the knowledge help.
Oh, for sure.
That's what you, in my mind, that's what you should strive for with a chassis manufacturer. That's the help you want. Saving money on the car kit, saving money on the parts. How many parts do you really break?
Right.
How many car kits do you go through?
Right.
Getting the knowledge and being able to communicate and sit with and pit with, and just having that relationship with the higher level guys and the guys of the team is huge. Now, that being said, anybody can come over and talk to any of us, my guys, and my guys better help you. If not, send me a message.
Right.
Because they're not doing their job.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's unique. It's weird, because I remember being a guy that I wanted a sponsorship, and I had a guy, my buddy Dustin Kemp, told me flat out. He's like, if you have to ask, you don't deserve it.
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, if you have to ask a company to sponsor you, you do not deserve to be sponsored.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that doesn't even make sense. and then now it's like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
So yeah, and he said that, I think it was probably in 2000. Well, I had started racing RC cars in '99.
Okay.
and he told me that in 2000.
Yeah.
So it's, here I am a year into it.
Right.
I'd won a couple club shows and barely squeaked into the A main of some Roar regional race or something like that. So,
okay.
Well, I should be sponsored. No,
right.
No, I shouldn't. And I didn't. I didn't get sponsored.
Right.
So I didn't have any sponsors until I was in dirt oval a little while.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's a lot of good words of wisdom. I think was in the podcast there as far as what all was said. So,
yeah.
Scooter, he's got a major list compared to me, man.
Oh my gosh.
He thinks that stuff through.
Yeah. Well, he had sent me all of his show notes that he had typed out, and I was like, oh my gosh, man, I suck at preparation now because he's on it.
Yeah, exactly. Ask him what his checklist is for a pre-race. He's looking at mine laughing.
Yeah, but he's he's like yourself. He gets flooded all the time for sponsorships and all that. So he's definitely had some wisdom with it. And I mean, guys, I don't want anybody to think that like sponsorships are a bad deal, but some of them absolutely are nothing more than just marketing technique. There's good ones. Just do what's right for you, and it's not the end all be all. It's just that simple.
No, don't get caught up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're better off going to a local body shop and asking them to sponsor you and just giving you some money.
Right. That's a true story.
Believe it or not, I've seen people get sponsored by Oakley.
Yeah.
For RC cars. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So it can happen.
That's true. You never know. Think outside the
box.
And
those sponsorships you can go ask.
Right.
So
yeah, those are the ones you want to ask.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, oh my gosh, it's after 11. Oh, I'm going to hurt tomorrow.
I'm just going to sleep in.
What?
Sorry, Prodigies are going to be an extra day late because I did this podcast.
Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Cool.
Just gonna push out a day.
Hope nobody was in a hurry.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's get ready to wrap it up, man. So, I'll give you the final thank you, and then we will get out of here.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Who do you want to thank?
Oh, jeez. Everybody that runs my stuff.
There you go.
Whether it be GFRP, 5-7 Designs, everything else. My sponsors, they know who they are, and if people want to know who they are, just click on one of my Facebook pages and look at the side of my car.
There you go. Well, so, you've mentioned most of them in this episode, so.
I'm pretty sure I have. So.
Yeah.
So, yep. Nope.
Cool.
Should be good.
Yep. Just remember, all questions need to be addressed to brand ambassador Chad Jones at Team GFRP Facebook page.
Absolutely. I got to get him admin rights. I think he has them. He just doesn't use them.
Oh.
On the 5-7 page.
Okay.
Got to relieve me some more work.
Yeah. There you go. Well, cool, man. Dustin, thanks for coming on as always. You have a lot of good insight, so it's good to get it out there. You know what? I know it was partly because we had Rona on, but we picked up a crap ton of new listeners the past couple of days, which still blows my mind that like there's new people coming and listening. So thank you, new listeners. Thank you, old listeners. So that takes the like total count up to like 10 now. So we're man, we're rocking and rolling. Facebook page has almost hit like 2,500 likes, and I haven't done anything to promote that. It's suffered so bad. But if anybody's on Instagram, I'm absolutely blowing up Instagram now. So check us out there. And until next time, guys, that's a wrap.